Hello.
So I'm going to just get us started while we wait for some people to join in on the video chat.
So welcome to our breakfast chat.
I'm Wendy Kennan.
I'm Samsarah Morgan.
And we are here to talk about Samsarah's newly released book. It's called Children's Village, Tales of an Urban Nana.
It is.
I'll just mention that I was part of the Children's Village with my kids at Occupy Oakland, which Samsarah helped create. And she's going to talk about her book, which is a collection of, it's a collection of stories that include several stories about the Children's Village and personal stories and news commentary with some really amazing overarching themes and analysis. So
overarching themes and analysis.
Yeah, for sure. It all comes through, Samsarah.
Thank you.
So we can get started, and people will be joining in the broadcast. Yeah. There is a group chat box if you want to type in a chat message. We can try to join. To answer your questions. But basically the format for today is going to be Samsarah and I will talk about the book for a little while, and then she's going to read, and then we'll take some questions at the end. So.
And also bear with the fact that we're getting acquainted with this technology, and so things might be a little strange. So I'm looking at the fact that we have 2 viewers, but I know one of the viewers is you, right?
Yeah. So this is not our first time trying out Google Hangout on air, but I found it to be inconsistent so far. So it could be that the viewers are choosing not to be visible, or it could be that since it's on air, it's not showing them and it's only showing us. But either way, the group chat should be able to, they can type in their comments in the group chat. There's an icon on the upper left of the viewer's screen where they can open up the chat box, which will show up on the right side of the window.
So Kevin's online and he says he doesn't see a chat window.
So on the upper left corner of your screen, Kevin, you should see like a blue and white chat icon. And if you click on that, then the group chat box should show up on the right.
Were you able to hear that, Kevin? No.
So, and I'll test it out as I go, as we go here on my computer.
But yeah, he says he's in.
Okay, so great. So I'm glad you can see us. And we also have Virginia, who's on.
Virginia's on.
And she says, I'm not sure. Oh, okay.
No blue-white chat box.
Let's see.
He's basically looking at a YouTube window. He's looking at the live broadcast.
Oh, okay. So maybe we would like to, maybe we can add them this way. All right. So thanks for bearing with us as we figure this out. So you can add, just start writing their names. So that would be Kevin and Virginia. Yeah, feel free to message us if you're trying to join the chat. Yeah, that's the right one. Go right ahead and click invite, and let's see if you guys are in the video with us. Okay, and I just want to say that Samsarah and I, we were excited to use Google Hangout because we like the social aspect of this side of Google Plus and the social networking. It's very different from Facebook. We like the fact that it auto records, but I do feel like Google has some work to do in working out its glitches.
Yeah. So I've just put. Has anybody's window changed at all that you can see? Because on mine, I only see 2 viewers. So that would be 3 viewers.
So see when we go like this, okay, if you put your cursor over the screen, you guys, do you see like a menu that pops out from the left side? Because at the top of that menu is the group chat icon. That's the blue and white dialog box icon. So we can.
Has everybody found it? We don't see their little faces at the bottom.
Do you want to invite me also, and then I can be looking at it?
How did we
here?
do that?
So click right here, the add, yeah.
Can you help, Dave?
Yes.
Please do.
Okay, so the way this thing is set up, everybody's kind of watching the YouTube video.
Yeah.
That is
Okay.
being put out as you do this.
Yes.
In order to invite
Technical
them
support from my son, David Silver, right here.
Is you need to give them basically that link there.
that
This,
huge mess.
oh, the plus.google.com link. All right.
Give
and
it
if
to
they
them.
go to and if they go to that link, then they'll be in this conversation. Otherwise, they're just watching a video of you talk.
They're just watching the live stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's copy
'Cause it's a live
that.
stream.
We're gonna get you
We're gonna
guys
send you a
this
link so that you'll be in more the chat and not just watching.
Okay, so we're gonna put it in the in the Google Plus event. We're gonna join the call here. So let's see if that works. Yeah, we're gonna try to get you guys in the video with us. That's what we're working on right now. So let's see how it starts.
Makes it easier to chat.
So then we can.
Hi, David. Kevin says hi.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Sorry, I want to get it. Here's our video still going. Okay, got it.
So if you guys got the link, and you can hopefully click that link, and you'll be in where we are.
Yeah, it says share publicly at 11:08 a.m. on the Google Plus event wall. And then we wrote join the call here with the link. And if you scroll over the link, it will turn blue, and then you can click on it. Okay, great. Well,
So is Kevin in?
Kevin, seems like you're in the video call, right? And David joined.
Okay. Okay, so Kevin's in there. He can chat.
And David found us. So okay, so now Victoria, oh, she's not on right now. So we can probably start. I think if more people join the call, we can add them.
So if Kevin spoke, he would show up on the screen, right? Just so I understand.
Right now he has his video off.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, because you're
Is that-
working.
yeah.
Okay. So now we can officially get started.
All right. So Samsarah, I'm with Samsarah Morgan. I'm Wendy Kennan, and Samsarah and I have known each other since the Children's Village at Occupy Oakland, where we first met.
Definitely.
And we've had many opportunities to work together since then because of our similar interests and professions as well.
Definitely.
So I was really honored, Samsarah, that you asked me to help you with your online book reading.
Yeah, and the book is a family project because I'm very happy that Kevin, although we can't see his cute little face, that he's online there out there. This Kevin is my wonderful editor, helped me look through and have good pronunciation of my words and whatnot. And had to me a very sacred job, which is to kind of look through these words. We know I've shared, and I share in the first story in the book, kind of the trauma that I've had from childhood around my writing. So it's been a very slow, emergent process of being able to allow myself to have my words and to have others read them. And so it was quite a very big thing for me to have somebody read my words and edit them, just to even correct them. Like even spelling corrections were a great big deal for me. And so I've been very blessed to have Kevin's assistance in that. And give him credit in the book, and he's written a very lovely foreword. One of the 3 beginning forewords to the book are his words too. And he's one of our village daddies. We had some men who were very involved with the village, but Kevin was consistently reliable and available with his beautiful little boy, Philo, who's grown into this feisty little human being, this perfectly sweet little baby. So it's really nice to have that positive male energy be part of the healing journey of this book and the creation of the book.
So, Samsarah, you just touched on a bunch of the themes that I really appreciated in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I want to say that, when I read the book, I felt like now I understood Samsarah. There are all these really, Samsarah is wonderful in all the ways that she does amazing things for her community and in the world. But, there's just different aspects of your history that I just have had a little bit of exposure to here and there. And reading the book, it filled in the blanks, and I really understood why, I looked to Samsarah for, helping me understand a lot of things.
Thank you.
And also I've sent students to you, and we've shared clients and, those things too. But I want to say, getting back to the book, you told me that the first story was the last one that you wrote, and after you wrote it, you realized you were ready to publish the book.
Yeah, we were talking about just the gestation of this book. The book is a compilation of some of the stories that I wrote while Occupy was going on, and other articles about things that were going on in the news at that time, some family stories that were going on at the time. And I had this very kind of, actually, I think I just asked Kevin to look at all my stories and pick a bunch of them. And he was like, well, shouldn't you do that? And I said, I would like you to. So he picked a bunch of stories, and then I added some as well. And it was just this really unconscious process that I had these stories, and I knew I was going to name the book Children's Village, but I didn't really have like a grasp of it. And then finally, I sat down and wrote a story that I realized needed to be the first story in the book, which is the story of my having kept a journal and been a prolific writer as a teenager, and then having my journal found by my father and the repercussions of that, and how my voice stopped as a writer. I really basically didn't write much at all after that. After writing that story, I realized, oh, okay, here is the underlying trauma that has made putting this book together so difficult. This first story is a story of the end of my voice, and the rest of the stories in the book are the stories of my voice resurging in a very powerful way. I'd been in the community around Children's Village, but even before that, we talked in our last little hangout about how, Facebook has been such a friend of mine, because that was a place where I really started to exercise a lot of writing. Like, people knew me as a teacher in the community, but really my words just really came very easily for me over Facebook. Also, it was nice with getting all the little likes. And I learned to not care about not being liked. It was like good practice for me. And also, my first gig of writing for an online publication came from somebody who was a friend of a friend who was reading my writing, was very moved by the things that I was writing, and asked me to write for her. So that the story was that first story was the problem, and the rest, all the other words, were the solution and the healing.
Right. I want to talk a little bit more about this first story in your collection here. So we're talking about Samsarah Morgan's first book, Children's Village, Tales of an Urban Nana.
Vanna Wright moment on that.
And you can find the book, where is it?
You can find the book, there is a link in the Google invitation for the Create Space section that will take you right to where you can purchase the book. If you'd like to buy a book from me that is signed by me, some folks have asked for that. It's kind of thrilling. You can send $25 to me directly via PayPal to the address niahealingcenter@aol.com, niahealingcenter.com. 20% of the proceeds of this book go to the Oakland Better Birth Foundation, which is an organization that has a direct lineage from Children's Village. Yeah, Children's Village and the Parents and Allies Committee that oversaw what happened in the village and the love there. I'm also the founder of the Occupy Decolonized Pregnancy, Birth, and Parenting Caucus of Occupy Oakland. And we were putting on and continue to put on birth justice fairs and forums here in the East Bay. And that's been pretty much going on since Occupy. And from that work, now we have the Oakland Better Birth Foundation. And the goal of the foundation is to spread the good word about natural and holistic birth, and to do everything that we can to reduce the infant and maternal mortality numbers in the Alameda County, in the entire East Bay, in the whole world if we can. Because that situation is a really relatively easy fix if we are willing to take a look at patriarchy and corporatization and the issues that actually make it more profitable for moms and their babies to die. So we're going to take a look at those issues. The focus of the foundation is to assist those who want to be trained as holistic birth workers, and to help families who want to avail themselves of holistic birth worker services.
Thanks, Samsarah. Well, so you sort of just touched again on the theme of what young people are facing in the world today, and the first story in your book talks about some of the details about your youth and your family of origin, and the other stories in here are also, some of them are personal, some of them are about Trayvon Martin and things that went on. Some of them are about Hurricane Sandy and things that went on. And really, I really appreciate getting your analysis of those news from your point of view. So getting back to the first story, so I really appreciated, you start out talking about how you were 13 when you read The Diary of Anne Frank. And all of a sudden you had a way to, you related to her, you were saying as a person who was trapped in a situation.
Yeah, there was multiple levels of connecting. Firstly, because she was a 13-year-old girl, and I was a 13-year-old girl. She was trapped in the horrible situation of the European Holocaust, and I was trapped in my family of origin and multi-levels of abuse. So I very much connected with her. Plus, she just had this very lovely, sassy voice. I mean, it's one of those things that I've always felt sad about, was that she did not get to be an adult. I think she would have been like this amazing kick-ass woman. And on her way too, I mean, I'm sure she would have continued writing. And I feel that in my heart. So I just had this huge affinity with her. And being a Brooklyn girl, being raised up in New York where I was, having a really strong connection along with my own African American culture, my own Catholic culture, Jewish culture played a big part in being a New Yorker at the time. So that's where I came to read about her in school and care about her. And of course, the classic movie, I'm a classic movie hound. So there's a beautiful classic movie about The Diary of Anne Frank that I adored also, always.
And it sounded like that really opened the floodgates for you, and you had a way to process your life experiences through writing. Some of your other stories in this collection talk about, being isolated from friendships in school, being in a Catholic school. You actually found peace in the church when everything else was so chaotic.
Thankfully, I'm very, very blessed that I don't have any issues of being abused in my faith tradition. My heart bleeds for children or people who have been abused spiritually or by clergy. It's a heartbreak. So I did have this beautiful oasis in my growing up where, where there was safety, where I was affirmed for being a smart child. And yeah, that was definitely a big oasis.
And you were also able to find some male role models or father figures through your faith community and tradition.
Absolutely safe. They definitely, my pastor growing up was a lovely man. Father Dempsey was beautiful and loved children, and no concern about being injured by him in any way. So.
And then you talked about how some of your teachers in school were really supportive of your writing, but then nobody knew what happened when you stopped.
Yes, I mean that's now me moving on to high school, and yeah, I mean the teachers were incredibly supportive of me, of my writings in high school, and then because of this incident, after that took place, they were all just kind of befuddled as to why this little girl who's I would give them story after. I was sitting in class not paying attention because I was writing
Yeah.
in my notebook,
Yeah.
and suddenly like, oh, she's paying attention in class. What's going on? So
sweet. Well, and then I really appreciate what you told me is that this first story lays it out there that you found your voice and then you lost it, and then the rest of the book is your proof and it's your process of reclaiming your voice and using that.
Yes, this book is a big stepping stone, just on an emotional and psychological, spiritual level. I feel like the process of creating this book, of giving birth to this book baby, makes it possible for me to do a lot more writing, and I'm doing the work of letting go of that fear of that was crippling to me early on, which is like if you write something bad will happen, or somebody will, because my previous journals were found and I was punished very brutally for what was written. I have much more of, I hate the term thin skin because I just don't think that's appropriate, but that's what's popping into my head right now. So, but I think I have more resilience is probably best.
Right.
To weather other people's opinion, like
less vulnerable.
Yeah, much less vulnerable and much more like your opinion is your business. It's not really gonna.
And this is your gift, and this is your healing, and I really appreciate that, and I felt that and how that came through here. So, we also talked about in your generation and my generation what we were facing growing up, and then compared to what are young people facing today in the world. It feels so chaotic today. It's a hard thing to compare, but you and I talked about can't go to the mall, can't go to school without worrying sometimes about violence.
Yeah.
On top of that, we have global warming and so many species going extinct, and the racism is overt again. There's no shame around it.
It always was overt.
Yeah.
It just in polite company you just couched it a different way. But it's always and the biggest evil in racism is the systemic racism that's part of the country. That was part of the inception of the country. Is that one group took power over and they stole the land and property of others.
Right. And ruled the education.
Yeah.
Right. And then we even talked about how the school system and the way that young people are, there's so much pressure on young people today. Teen suicides are rising, and also that's going right along with the way women are giving birth in hospitals, with rising rates of maternal mortality in the United States, and everything is so impersonal and institutionalized and material focused. So that's the context by which we talk about the Children's Village, and what a beautiful thing that happened. We were in Oakland when Occupy was happening, and I brought my kids to the Children's Village there because there was a lovely place where they could go and participate as young people who want to see change in the world.
Well, I mean, that's one of the really key things. I mean, one of the most important things that mattered to me, and why there even was a children's village, was the fact that I wanted to help to create a space where there would be quote unquote safety for children, which was kind of a misnomer, because, you know, what was happening there in all of the occupied camps wasn't quote unquote safe. It was a group of people who were taking a hard look at and calling to task the dominant culture, which is corporate culture. That's not safe. That is dangerous.
Yeah.
But it was necessary, and children need to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of the reason that, at least that I was out there, was for my children, for my grandchildren, and for my, you know, great grandchildren who I never will know, but I want them to have a certain lifestyle. I want them to be able to, you know, live well on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So everything, like the rules of Children's Village and how everything was plotted out, was so that children could be there, and that adults would carry the burden, as adults should carry the burden, of seeing towards the safety of the kids as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not have them. Part of the issues with the cultures that we live in now is that children are slammed in the head way too early with adult fears and trepidations. There used to be an understanding that you kind of shielded kids. That's what, you know, curse around them. There's certain things that adults used to do just to have a bit of a barrier to allow a kid to kind of grow into life a little.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to have an internal infrastructure to be able to hold and deal with what it means to be an adult human being. There were rites of passage where kids would go up the stepping stone towards these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a little kid and, you know, you're just exposed to things that your brain can't even begin to fathom.
Yeah, just started with mass media. I mean,
Yeah.
pop culture.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that just adults not having within them the fact that, okay, we turned the TV off because the kids walked in the room.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I remember being a little one, you know, even with, you know, other issues, but adults would shift their language if a child was present.
So that was happening somewhat around Children's Village at Occupy.
It was really beautiful at Occupy because we had these stalwart young revolutionaries, you know, who, like, I would give them the hairy eyeball when they were passing by the kids area, and they would be cursing. And then they would remember their heart, and they would remember their humanity, and they'd go, "Oh, sorry, ma'am," and they'd stop. You know, there's always the certain person or two who's like, "Oh, I'm going to do what I want," but that was actually very rare around Children's Village.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also very sweet around like African American culture. We still have that. You know, if an older woman says something to you, you at least take a moment to consider whether she's crazy or not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Don't
Sure.
just blow her off.
Right.
So we had, you know, folks who after a while they realized, oh, we don't smoke around Children's Village. And we're not going to be standing around cursing around Children's Village because
Right.
the kids are there.
Right.
And it was just nice to have that moment to, it helped people remember why we were doing this. Like, why were we in the mud in front of City Hall? What was that about?
I mean, it diversified the culture of the tent camp for sure.
It made it a real village.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
made it a real village, having real children there
Mm-hmm.
and having to stop, let our adult egos down
Mm-hmm.
enough to consider
Mm-hmm.
them.
I mean, we know there were homeless families at the tent camp already.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, actually, that was one beautiful thing about Occupy is you had people of all different economic status and all
We did
different
indeed.
ethnic background just come in and dancing together at the dance parties or not dancing at the dance party if that's their thing or whatever it might be, all different shapes and sizes of people. And the Children's Village made the space for that to happen for the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also like a place where people could be around kids and learn what it is to be around kids.
That's one of the stories that I wanted to read a little later. But yes, I mean, there are occasions where there were people who really didn't have a whole lot to do with kids in their life. They weren't engaged with them in any significant way. but that they got to come and like kind of experiment. What's it like to play with Legos with these strange little beings? And it was very sweet. It was a lot of sweet things.
And the activities, by the way, you know, that my kids participated in were very special. You know, it was like, you know, sharing visions about the world. It was about the environment. It was about living in peace and equality. And it was dancing in circles, or relaxation exercises, or stories.
We had yoga, exactly.
There was diverse, you know, cultures in the
drumming.
group.
So lots of beautiful artists in the community came and volunteered their time to not just entertain the children, but to teach and engage with them. So I have a great video, which I need to post sometime soon, about our Halloween extravaganza that we had, which was really very close to after the first smashing of the camp. So we're all kind of shell-shocked and hysterical, but still had this beautiful event where many children came out and played in costume. They trick-or-treated in and around all of the various tents. People had candies and gifts for the children. So yeah, it was a village. It really was a village.
And my kids, we would. Oops! Can you guys put your mic on mute? All right. Thanks. We're gonna do some open questions after Samsarah does the reading, which will be in a few minutes.
Oh, actually, if somebody has a quick question now or wants to say something now, that'd be great. Oh, see, you're popping up.
So now you're on mute, I believe. Yeah, you are on mute because there's an icon, Kevin. Yeah. So I guess what I was going to also say, Samsarah, is when I would bring my kids, we'd always go pretty much straight to the children's village with bags of donations of games and stuff. But then we'd also go check out what was going on in the food with the kitchen. We'd bring some vegetables from our garden. We brought some squash to contribute or whatever. We saw how much food was being made every day and given out every time we went there. We loved seeing the little gardens, you know, garden beds popping up all over Oscar Grant
We
Plaza.
used to joke. I mean, our beautiful young men would come by every day and ask, what do the kids need today? And we give them a list, some juice boxes and whatever, and trying to not have, you know, very sugary snacks and whatnot. And it was amazing how they would just come back with the stuff we had asked for. We had so much support. People just gave so many beautiful things to Children's Village. So much. I still, up in my attic, have the great big tub of Legos and crayons and, you know, and all kinds of stuff that was donated.
Yeah.
I would love to see if Kevin can.
You can unmute Kevin if you want. If
you can unmute, because I would love to have your voice in this a little bit as a village daddy, just sharing a little bit of your experience of that.
He's in a silent place.
Oh, you're in a silent place. You can type.
You can type, yeah.
You can type, and then we'll read out what you're typing.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's what he sees.
He's actually in the video chat now, but we also have an additional viewer watching like that. Didn't join the chat. Okay. So, oh yeah. So Kevin's typing us a question or a comment.
Yay! I'm glad.
And I'll just throw in there. My kids were really impressed by the people's libraries. There were several I saw over time at the Occupy tent camp. Oh yeah, reunion. I'm saying, let's have a reunion.
We need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there was, unfortunately, the Occupy community, you know, evolved into factions. But I would say that, you know, even the 6-month anniversary of Occupy, everybody was still together. And we did a 1-year anniversary press conference that happened. And
yes, that was deep. And that was still kind of factionized as well. But for sure, if we can do a children's village, Kevin is saying nice things about the People's Library.
Yeah.
How is it being a village dad, Kevin? Yeah, just Children's Village.
It's going great being a dad.
How is it being a dad at Children's Village with little Philo at the time?
Democratizing event. Yeah, so we're all still at it, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's one of the reasons why when I started the Parents Caucus and Committee, I really reached out to parents because those are the folks who are literally raising the future in their living rooms. Those are the people who can see the most clearly why we have to be active and why we have to be taking a stand on all those issues that you were talking about earlier, the things that are so distressing. Parents have to always be at the forefront of that. I've written many times that you can't be a parent without being an activist. You just can't, one way or another. I mean, you can.
You have to advocate for your kids no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're just going to just, and I guess people do this too, just sign them up whole line and sinker for the society as it stands, which I don't know why we would do that, because it's not serving anybody. There's no life form on the planet that is being served with how we're living on this planet right now.
Right.
It's kind of insane.
So he's talking about his event tonight at Canyon Middle School. Democratizing. We need you to tell us a little bit more about it, Kev, if you want us to share.
What is that? It's a nice screenshot. Is that a screenshot? No, this is us right now.
Okay, Kevin's he's writing to us more about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point is that, okay, I'll take a look at it. The point is that we're all, we were all part of what went on then. It was a lot of people's beginning of activism. It restored hope for a lot of people, the Occupy movement. It changed the international conversation, I would even say.
Absolutely.
So it really did accomplish a lot. And then, like some of us were active before and we're still active.
And hopefully we will always be until these issues, if everybody is doing their best work on all their various issues, we'll have some balance.
Yeah. So do you want to read to us a little bit
about
the Children's Village?
I'll read about. What's Kevin saying?
So Kevin is getting involved with an event tonight. Town Hall, should Castro Valley have an elected or appointed municipal advisory council?
I see.
And so there's going to be an event at...
Put the link on the event link.
On the event page.
On the event page. We'll put the link for this event on the event page for this chat.
Right. I mean, and I could say, it's so cool to hear that you're working on this municipal advisory council. City commissions are one way to be engaged. There's both Samsarah and I are birth workers, so
definitely.
We're
I'm a member of the Alameda County Green Party County Council, so doing what I need to do there.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to read a tale from one of my tales. And this one is called The Heart of the Occupation. And it is one of my favorites. It was with great excitement that I greeted the news that the Occupy Wall Street movement was going to express itself in the city where I live, Oakland, California. You see, I am a New Yorker, and like most of the New Yorkers I know, I was raised to believe that all things wonderful, original, and vital have their start in the 5 boroughs which make up metropolitan New York. I don't recall when I heard about it. I believe that it may have been a post on Facebook. I began to watch and pray for these brave young people who transparently shared their every move, their every attempt to create a new world. It astonished me that for the first few days no one seemed to be following them, and not even the supposedly progressive news show. This stumped me. How could it be that several hundred people were protesting in a major American city, and that this was not seen as newsworthy? Yet so it was that day after day their movement was ignored. I was dumbfounded. It was not until this peaceful group of protesters came under the fire of the New York Police Department that their existence broke through the denial of the American psyche. They emerged as a national happening and became a visual representation of the authentic change underway in this country. Their bravery sparked the potential bravery in all of the rest of us, and led to affinity groups all over the country. Powerful, amazing, and true. So Occupy Oakland was about to start. I sat at the first planning meeting and allowed the speaker's words to wash over me. A wave of concern replaced my initial excitement. I don't know why. This thought was slow to form within me. I guess I was a bit giddy from the excitement of it all. But by the second planning meeting, the reality of this scene opened like a flower within me. Some would consider that what we were about to do to be illegal. And the good people of Oakland knew I knew would turn out in great numbers. Where Oaklanders go, so do their children. And how would this important event be presented to those children? So at the first General Assembly in Oakland, many adults expressed many emotions. Several children cried, and their parents removed them from the area. Each time this happened, another parent lost the ability to hear the information presented. Other adults smoked cigarettes in the middle of the crowd with no regard for the young lungs standing right beside them. I was appalled, and I knew that something had to happen, something that would allow the participation of children in this most important event in the history of our city and our world. I also knew that the young ones would have a great deal to offer, and their presence was calming and had a civilizing influence. After the speeches and the beautiful opening ceremony from an Ohlone elder, Occupy Oakland officially began. There came time for committee announcements. During the early planning sessions, there was a mention of child care committee being considered. I shook my head when I heard that. Child care during an occupation? How was that going to work? I was committed to find out about that committee and to lend my support and experience as a child care provider, mother, and grandmother. I bumped into a woman who ran a child care collective. We quickly shared words and agreed we would address the group and announce the formation of the Children's Committee. We agreed to address the large crowd together, just like that. When we stepped away from the microphone, 10 other women approached us immediately, offering their support and a desire to get things started. I went home and created a group on Facebook. Within 24 hours, the group had 60 members. Parents communicated busily about how and when and where Children's Village should operate. My desire was to be in a space that was easy to exit, and such an oasis was secured. Our location was perfect, close enough that parents could hear what was going on in the amphitheater on the City Hall steps, but far enough away for children to play undisturbed by loud voices and cigarette smoke. We had 5 established rules for Children's Village. Children's Village was not child care, so parents had to be present with their children. Donated food should be healthy snacks, whole grains, etc., and no sugar. Only respectful and compassionate language was allowed in Children's Village. 4, no smoking, and 5, have fun. The rule about sugary snacks quickly fell to the wayside, but what can you do? All this proceeded with amazing ease and competence. I must say that Children's Village was the most efficient and orderly of all the committees and had the least amount of friction between its members. Why? Well, I believe that parents are people who are used to thinking on the fly, delegating and cooperating. Our committee is mostly mamas, 2 amazing papas, and me, the nana. In another 24 hours, we were on site, the other mamas and I with children in tow. We hugged each other and enjoyed our first face-to-face meetings. It was already like we were old friends. We borrowed and set up an easy up and put toys into place. A wonderful young woman named Dorney assured us that she would be camping nearby and that she would care, even sleep under the easy up and take care of the space overnight. What followed was the tense beginning of our occupation. A group of about 200 tents, which made up the first encampment, was filled with an assortment of people, including individuals who had come to participate in the occupation and those associated with nonprofits and or educational agencies who came for the same reason. There are also the folks who had been there before us, the homeless people who resided at the plaza, those who organized the occupation, changed the area's official name, Frank Ogawa Plaza to Oscar Grant Plaza, as a tribute to the young man whom uniformed transit police shot and killed on a public transit platform on New Year's Eve, 2008 to 2009. The encampment was made for the encampment made for a curious and potentially explosive mix. The first 5 days were very interesting and precious. I witnessed people having various degrees of success in learning to communicate with each other. Race, class, sex, all these issues presented themselves. Caucuses and affinity groups formed quickly. Training sessions began happening. Immediately, our kitchen began to feed everyone in the camp with kind donations from local restaurants, food co-ops, and citizens. Medics gave first aid to people who, before our presence, had no hope of such care. It was very moving, it was inspiring, and it was frightening as well. I found myself wondering if this was how it was for the very first conscious human beings, reaching out to others, not knowing how, learning each other's languages, getting it wrong, and then getting it right. Very quickly, everyone there became very dear to me. The gentleman who attempted to flirt with me as I walked to the village each day, the children and families who came to play, and of course the amazing group of Corps volunteers who showed a devotion to our project above and beyond their humanity. The children's village very quickly established itself as the heart of the occupation. During the day, it was filled with the cream of Oakland family life, the most beautiful children anywhere in my humble estimation, and became a place where tired adults came to sit and meditate upon that beauty. Folks just wanted to be near, to watch the children and dream of their own child life. Very quickly, the hardest revolutionaries began to watch their language around our young people. Some approached humbly, asking if it was okay to just come play with the kids. I have very fond memories of one young man who admitted to me he hadn't really spent much time with kids. He wondered if he could read them a story anyway. I assured him that it would be fine, and instructed him to sit near our bookcase and just start to read. It took 5 minutes before 5 little boys surrounded this young man and sat near him and climbed on him and on his lap as he read. I don't know who was happier, the children or their new adult friend. He ended up reading 4 books to the children, and as he began to take his leave, all the children burst into tears and begged him to stay. The young man's face was full of emotion. "They like me, don't they?" he said to me, his face reflecting confusion and pride. "Yes, dear," I said. "You were kind to them, and they will love you forever for it." He seemed deeply gratified to hear that. "They're like angels," he said. "Yes, dear, they're exactly like angels." And as he left our village walking taller than before, with a very bright smile on his face. We had been together about 10 days before the warning letters from the city began, and to be honest, I wasn't too concerned. Our mayor, Jean Quan, was known to be progressive. She was a mother and grandmother herself. I couldn't imagine that she would permit this disgraceful behavior the world witnessed in New York City during their occupation. I was very cautious, but I was hopeful that the camp would be tolerated, if not understood, by city government. My true concern was that the ability to learn self-policing would prove too much for our encampment. We did have people among us who struggled with emotional concerns, and I hoped that we, as a group, were ready to deal with what that meant. I was concerned that if we could not, the city would feel that it had to step in, and that could spark violence. There was an incident in which a reporter poked his camera into a tent where a person was sleeping with his dog. The dog did what any dog would do under those circumstances. It bit the reporter. This sparked quite a disturbance. The reporter called the police, who attempted to enter the area to answer the call. Several present did not wish the police to enter the area. The police, after some argument, stayed at the periphery of the camp. The reporter brought himself to the officers and was taken to receive treatment. While the encampment struggled to find its feet with these matters, the letters from the mayor's office kept coming in, and I began to have a lingering feeling of dread. One night, my phone rang. The caller said the police were expected to arrive at Occupy Oakland any moment. I put the word out to my core committee and asked them to help me secure our supplies to avoid seizure by the police, as I had been told was the experience of the San Francisco protesters. Very quickly, women headed to the area. One of our moms, Carmen, was first on the scene, and she witnessed a man with clear emotional problems fighting with others in the camp. Other people from Occupy Oakland, whose jobs were security volunteers, subdued him. It was quite an upsetting scene. At least it was for me. "I am from Puerto Rico. I've seen it all," said Carmen. She left to get her car, and I was in Children's Village alone. I realized that I was scared. My hands were shaking. I walked to our supply tent. It was my desire to move everything in there out to safety. I was kneeling, looking into the small tent, which was full to the rafters with toys, games, books, and other supplies. I began with trembling fingers to remove the plastic boxes full of sidewalk chalk, crayons, paints, and paper. I knelt on the ground and began to cry. I took a deep breath, knowing that it wouldn't do for me to break down and that I had to move very quickly. To the right of me, I heard footsteps. I turned and I saw a young man approaching me. He was a slender young man, about 25, very pale, very frightened. My heart immediately filled with concern for him. He approached me cautiously and said hello. His voice was very grave. I greeted him. "Are you taking the kids' stuff away?" His eyes were filled with tears, and I looked at him, and I knew what my answer had to be. "No," I said, "not all of it, just enough so that we could start over if we had to." He nodded wisely, and I hugged him, and we cried together. "Be safe, sweetie," I said to him. And then I realized how foolish my statement had been. Safe, what did that mean exactly? This movement was born from the desire to attain some small measure of safety for the citizens of this country. It grew in an attempt to establish a shared standard of living that was the bare minimum for happiness: shelter from the cold, availability of health care, access to learning, and the avoidance of hunger. Not much, but so vital. The foundation and the tools whereby one can actually stand on their own 2 feet. As I watched the young man walk away, I realized I had no right to take everything away, to fulfill some inner sense of safety for myself. Children's Village belonged to Occupy Oakland. I had no right to remove its heart. I kept my word and only took a few things with me, enough to resume if police indeed invaded the camp. Carmen and another friend gathered all that I had chosen and packed it up. I was the last to leave the encampment. I looked around and said a prayer. I touched the tent. I touched the easy up. The police did not raid the camp that night, but their raid came a few days later. Their attack on the encampment was in the pre-dawn early hours, and it was brutal. They used tear gas and flashbang grenades. They stomped the camp. Our dear Dorney attempted to protect Children's Village. She and others made a ring around it and told the police that there was no need to destroy it. It was only filled with children's toys and games. The police handled her very roughly. They hurt her and arrested her. She saw the police stomp on the toys. It looked like they enjoyed it, Dorney told us later that day. After the sun went down, again that night, our police used extreme force on Oakland citizens once more, as people affirmed their rights to take their grievances to their government and to participate in this worldwide movement which had begun with Occupy Wall Street. Violent police attacks continued. The police injured and arrested many, but the people persisted. Someone told me that later, upon the rebuilding of the second Occupy Oakland encampment, the very first tent to go back up was the tent for Children's Village.
Thank you. You're welcome. It's beautiful to hear the story. Spoken by Samsarah in your own words, in your own voice.
It's the second time reading it out loud, and it's so almost makes me cry. What does Kevin say?
Kevin says, "Yay, I love that one." Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's a good story, and it does reflect a lot of my experience at the Occupy camp and the activities. And I felt like every time even when the camp was gone and I'd bring my kids back, we represented Children's Village when we didn't see anybody else there. And that's what we would be talking, you know.
Yeah.
It was like Valentine's Day, Occupy Oakland, dance party at night with my little kids out there talking Children's Village on the sidewalk.
That's one of the things that was really sweet about Children's Village, that people really owned it.
Mhm.
Like it belonged to Children's Village belonged to its citizens. And so, you know, everything was always pretty much well in hand, you know, those toys were basically put away. There was this beautiful sense of love for that space that then crept out into the greater encampment.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting some messages from Kevin too, and I think that you know, like one of the pieces of art that my daughter made on the first time that we went to the Children's Village, it was a picture of the earth, and above it said, "I like Occupy Oakland because you're trying to make the world a better place." And that was really like, the kids knew that that's what it was about.
Yeah.
If the politicians wouldn't
Kids
acknowledge
always
it.
know. Kids always know. They're the first ones to know. They have the clarity of vision to know exactly what needs to happen at any given time, whether it's I want a cookie or we need to save the world. Kids are not confused.
Yeah. So yeah, Kevin's writing in. So that story, I mean, it must have been quite a process to write that, to narrow down the story to, you know, that thread of, you know.
It's so interesting. I think that's, I don't know if I wrote those stories in such a place of PTSD.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of.
There was so much stress. So it was just really like stream of consciousness. That's why I just couldn't, that's why I did need someone else to edit it. Because I just wrote it and I sent it off, and mostly I was sending it off because there was not a lot of positive being written about Occupy, especially at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And especially Occupy Oakland, there was a lot of negativity and pushback against it from the greater community, and I wanted to use the fact that I am a very loved and respected person in the community to say, hey, I'm down there and I'm telling you what's happening.
Yeah.
And you know, pay attention, like that our fellow citizens are being abused there. You know, and lied on. So let's not buy what's being given to us on the news about Occupy.
Yeah. I actually got a lot of pushback too when I tried to bring it into my own community, and you know, talking about what about civil rights in Oakland right now? You know, people are doing peaceful protests, people are volunteering, helping other people on the streets, and they are being criminalized and attacked brutally.
Exactly.
I mean, there's, you know, there were people that were, you know, supposedly the police were responding to vandalism, but that's not really. It was clear to people on the ground that that's not what was going on. You know, if there were some vandals, they weren't representative of the whole camp.
It was about It's about your mindset, isn't it? Because city government was still trying to contain what was going on. I mean, of course, there's this big conversation about the word occupation, and it is an ugly word. And that also what was happening was that this group of people were taking over the space. So one person's vandalism was the other person stringing up their sign because we have taken over the space. Right. So yeah, I mean, you know, it was a clash of worldviews there.
Sure.
I'm going to answer Kevin's question real quick. He's asking a question about Stephanie Pepitone, who was our troubadoura. She is an amazing artist and entertainer and educator for children here in Oakland, and we love her. She came several times to Children's Village and did several different singing and dancing movement sessions with our kids in English and Spanish and a few other languages. It was really pretty amazing. I see her, she's doing very well in her work, continuing to be a children's educator and entertainer. She runs a community play date over, I believe it's in East Oakland, East Oakland Community Play Date. Once a month. I should get some information of that and post the link on that online too. It's free, safe space for kids to congregate and play and enjoy each other's company. So she's out there. She's our troubadoura. We love her forever. And blessings on her practice, doing very well. Last I heard, her beautiful child is growing like a flower. Last time I saw him was last year. Not this birthday, but last year's birthday, I had a Nana's birthday party where I just invited all the kids I loved in the community. I had 3 birthday parties last year, and one birthday party was just for all the children that I loved. And Stephanie entertained at that party, and we had Buki the clown do face painting. It was really fun.
Oh, I know Buki.
We love Buki. She rocks. The best face painter in the East Bay, really. She travels all over the East Bay.
Well, I love that our conversation is sort of weaving together sort of the traumatic reality of what was going on, but also the core of, love and healing and visionary, gathering for the future. And I would, I want to underscore that by saying when I saw Jean Quan, who was the mayor at the time, speak at a community event months later. She basically, when she was asked questions about the Occupy movement, she said, well, they said they were giving out food, but they were just giving out drugs and wine.
She said, that blows my mind.
So I actually have it on video, and I'm happy to share it because I live streamed it, and I had a very hard time holding back, and we ended up moving on from that question.
I will just want to say very clearly that in the kitchen of Occupy Oakland, like crazily nutritious, big vats of soup and bread and salad were being served.
Thousands every day.
People were coming from all over the place. The crime rate dropped in that area, was it 17%? Around there, we have to check it out. But there was a huge drop in the crime rate because guess what? People had food to eat. And in the early days of the encampment, people were like sharing, folks had extra tent and they'd give to another group, so people had shelter.
Yeah.
So guess what? People with food and shelter don't go rob you. They actually are fine.
Yeah, really. I mean, it was tremendous, the outside perceptions that people had who never actually experienced the tent camp or the medic tent, or even when there was Occupy the Port happened, there were medics set up all over the place, volunteers who were professionally, medical emergency technicians and things like that. So I just, all I could say when Jean Quan said that that's all it was, I just said, food every day for thousands of people every day, and I saw that
24 hours a day. Food was being given out to people.
Yeah, and also it wasn't just being given to homeless people. I mean, it was
anybody,
all kinds of people.
Anybody who wanted to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was just the most beautiful, and for me as a Christian person, it was the most gorgeous, loving, spiritual thing. Like Jesus would have been totally there in the camp with everybody, like giving out foods and playing with the children. I mean, Yeah. So it was just a perfect thing. That really angers me to hear that it was regarded that
So,
way.
I mean, I think it's a typical statement, though, about criminalization that goes on in our society. And I mean, like you and I, Samsarah, we can talk also about even, motherhood being criminalized.
Right.
I just saw recently there's a new law in the United States that, women who give birth without a father's name on the birth certificate or a substitute name will not get a birth certificate for their child.
What is that madness? I mean, it's just really, that's the whole thing. Like, people were talking about, like, cops were harassing some of the younger people at Occupy. The cop would just come up and say, like, get out of the way. And my thing is, like, you're under no obligation to move just because the cop says for you to move. There has to be a reason.
It's a public space.
It's a public space, and you have to have reason for the cop to engage me. There needs to be a good reason for the cop to engage me, not just because he doesn't like my face.
Yeah, very sad.
You know?
And actually, I think an amazing thing that's happened since Occupy, you know, because we were talking about economic disparities at Occupy a lot, but I think people's consciousness since then, I mean, now you can hardly see any kind of news or social analysis without some kind of discussion about privilege. And privilege happens on so many levels and so many spheres, and it's multi-dynamic. But I wanted to say, Samsarah, that, you know, you've posted at times, you know, about, you know, being a black mother, and when your son, actually it's in your book, you mentioned that when your sons were born, they only had a 50% chance.
Well,
of
that
living.
was one of the many horrible statistics on black children. Like I'm the mother of 5 wonderful sons, and 4 of those young men are African American, and the stats on my African American kids was that they had a 50-50 chance of not making it to their 18th birthday. And so when I had all of my posse make it to age 18 for my youngest child, I just realized there was this level of stress that I had been carrying in my body, and just burst into tears, and then decided to heal it by having a party celebrating the lives of my kids. And that everybody had made it to 18 and beyond, which should not have to happen in a sane society. A mother shouldn't have to celebrate that her child didn't die.
Right. I mean, I always felt like that I was kind of aware of those statistics, but hearing you express that, you know, when my son reached his 18th birthday, I cried, you know, and I was like, I cried when I read it, you know, like I really felt deeply moved just having that, you know, awareness and feeling like you shared that as well. So I think, you know, that consciousness is rising in our country now. At the same time that, you know, conflict is rising. You know, it's a very
well, yeah, I mean, it's a healing moment, but you know, healing moments are messy, and you know, the breakdown of this society it's messy, and it's going to be ongoing for quite some time, unfortunately. Again, that's why it's really super important for all of us to be activists in our way, and to push back against these ways that we are being pushed into this little kind of fascist box. My main branch of activism is around birth and reproductive justice and parents' rights justice. And so that's part of why proceeds from the sale of this book are going to go towards the Oakland Better Birth Foundation and the work that we're going to be doing there to empower parents to the culture tells parents they don't know their kids, that your kid is a stranger, and in fact, as your kid grows up, you should actually not even trust your tween kid is like supposed to be some strange creature that you're not supposed to know and be kind of afraid of. And it's really important for parents to push back against that and to have really good, solid bounding with their kids, even, you know, before they're even made. It'd be nice to consciously bring our children into the world as much as possible, to choose to be a parent, to nurture our little kids inside of us, and to be the ones who, you know, the buck stops with mom and dad about decisions having to do with those with our kids. So we also to allow that to make sense, we have to have a world where parents have the basic tools to be good parents. We can't blame parents when things don't go well with their children, when parents don't have the support, emotional, mental, spiritual, psychological, to raise these kids.
In the world today.
In the world, yeah. I mean, that's why villages were necessary, because in the village, everybody, those are all of the village's kids, and the village would support raising children who could live well on the planet. It's not about, I was hearing something recently, one of Obama's recent conversations like he's pushing for like universal preschool for everybody and all the children learning computer code.
Mhm.
Like, the path to happiness is not in making sure that most children are away from their parents for as long as possible.
Right.
And and yes, it's nothing wrong with knowing how to code, but if you're depressed and unhappy and your body's racked by autoimmune disorders and you can't talk to the person next to you because you only want to type on the computer, that's not going to help you have your human life.
Mhm.
How to be a happy, healthy human being, how to connect with other human beings, how to love other human beings and have empathy for other human beings is the healing to a lot of things, including racism.
Mhm.
Like, how do you not? I was reading this amazing book. I'm forgetting the author's name right now. He's looking at genocides all over the world, all different kinds of genocides and holocausts, because it's not just one. And all these horrible
all
times
over.
when human beings have gone after each other. And where that becomes possible is when one group of human beings can dehumanize the others. So wherever those kind of events have happened with human beings is because one group has compared another group to vermin.
Yeah,
They are
that's
not
true.
human. They are not people. And then that makes it possible to not even feel guilt when you harm them. And so we really do have to push back. The lack of empathy is the crushing blow of you. That will ultimately be what kills humanity. And it's already killing humans right now and killing other creatures that live on the planet. If we can't look at them and value the life force of every other being on the planet, be it human or animal, that's a huge chunk of why we are in the state that we're in now. Like in the news reports on Occupy, they were very successful in making the occupants the other. And as soon as they were the other, it was like lockstep. At first, everybody's kind of interested in Occupy, and then as soon as they were successful, especially in Occupy Oakland, in making Occupy Oakland the other, or the weirdos, or the freaky people, or not people, then everybody pulled back against them and abandoned them. And as soon as we were abandoned, it was easy to come and gas us. It was easy to come and torture that camp where little children lay sleeping in the tents those mornings. I want to point out that there were families who had children in those tents when that camp was raided.
And homelessness has
And
only risen
homeless
since then.
people who have been there since before the encampment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And homeless families were there. I mean, the point you bring up of dehumanization, I think that was part of the underlying movement to change the name from Occupy to decolonize.
Correct.
Oakland, for example.
Correct.
It's also something that we see in our society as a systemic thing, whether it be, you know, what you and I talked about, materialism and capitalism, or the education system, which is just so institutionalized and not personal, or birth, you know, even women giving birth in the hospital, you know, their progress not being measured as progress, but being categorized in a risk management format.
Right.
And, you know, bringing in, you know, medical interventions when there's no signs of distress, actually, just because she reached a new level of, you know, 0.05% of a new risk, you know, of something happening.
Well, our humanity is pathologized. I've seen like people criticize a mother, like criticizing a human mother who's a mammal, a primate, for wanting to hold her baby all the time. She's like, why do you want to hold your baby all the time? Why do you want to have your baby close to you? Well, I'm a human.
Right.
And not only is it just because I'm a human, my baby actually gets psychological, emotional benefit from being held close to me. The child's brain, a neural net, is being laid down. Its ability to feed itself, eat, love, trust on the earth is being established by being loved and held in the embrace of its mom and its dad and its community.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that stuff can be made to sound like something's weird about that. Like, why would you want to sleep in bed with your child?
Right.
Like, why do you want your kid in bed with you? Making that like a sick thing. It's like, no, it's actually the most beautiful, normal thing on the planet. That all the other creatures are, you can't think of a mammalian creature that doesn't snuggle up with its young.
Right.
Why are humans so different?
Well, I like that all the data is now coming out to verify what the natural birth community has been saying all these decades about co-sleeping, about delayed cord clamping, all this stuff. Now it's being institutionalized. Years after, now that new studies are coming out and showing it, but even still, they say, well, we don't wash the babies in this hospital anymore after they're born. We'll just wipe them down. But then when your baby comes out, they say, oh, but did you want us to shampoo their hair? And it's like, well, you weren't prepared for that question.
And not only shampooing their hair, but with Johnson & Johnson baby products, which is full of toxins. So here's your brand new baby.
Yeah, who's being sued right now because of cancer.
Toxic substances. So here's your brand new baby human being. Welcome to the world. Here's your, your first skin-to-skin dose of chemicals. You can begin your life in America. Good for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of work to be done there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just trying to see. I saw that there were a few people that were maybe trying to join your call here.
Oh, that's great.
So see if we can add them while we're still discussing.
How are we on?
Yeah, it's about 12:17. If that's the person that was just trying to come in. Just give me a second here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. And
is Micah trying to get in there? Hi,
yeah.
Micah.
And then we got moving on. Let's see. So I can't find the second contact.
I don't know that person. Did that person give their email?
Let's see. Oops. That's who it is.
I don't even know who that person is.
Okay. So, okay. All right. So maybe we might have another additional person in the chat here.
Yeah. So they can chat with you too.
Yeah, so I mean, amidst all of this, in every area where these dehumanizations are happening, there is a counter to it. There are people, paying attention, making change happen. So I
doing their best. No, they're doing their best.
I mean, whether it be, people in the education world or the childbirth world or, anywhere else. I mean, I saw that kids are being recruited for professional sports in 9th grade now, and then they're quitting in the middle of high school because it's just too much. I mean, there's just everything is, the expectations, children with anxiety because the pressures of on kindergartners to perform academically. I mean, these are not things I'm making up.
Yeah, and so much of it is about people just feeling so afraid, like you're afraid your kid is not going to measure up, or you're afraid your kid is not going to do well, and not having faith in the fact that if your child is able to do well with other human beings, your kid is going to do well.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the well-loved, well-fed, well-cared-for child is going to learn algebra. Have faith that is going to happen.
Right. If they're miserable and stressed out at school, how can they learn?
Learn anything.
How can they have healthy relationships with their friends?
And the other piece, too, is that we have these kids that do well at algebra, but they can't talk to another kid. So balance.
I mean, even the most
having
high-performing kids that are at the top of their class, are going unfortunately, we're seeing news stories about them, committing suicide as well. I mean, it's without any sign.
balanced.
Everybody is really good at, putting on a happy face and, what's their performance look like. But,
Yeah, and it's about not having children feel like I see parents. They the baby's born, and from the moment the kid is born, are all these, oh, it's a kid in the proper growth percentile, or there's all of these things that now the child is being weighed and measured and measured against other kids. My neighbor's kid is talking, and my kid's not talking. There's all this deep anxiety about it, and it's like, yeah, there are certain organic things. Some kids might have organic issues, so they don't perform on the same line as others at that goal. But who sets the goal?
yeah, I mean, who decides what they need to be good at?
Who decides what they need to be good at? Yeah, exactly. Some people are more right-brained, more left-brained.
I mean, the school system is not that old either. I think it's important to realize, we take for granted that this is how school is, and this is how we grew up, and this is how our parents or grandparents grew up. But it doesn't go back much before that.
And we also have to look at the school system, especially in this country, was raised up to allow for parents to be away from their kids for long hours of the day to work in factories.
I think
it's an important thing that we keep forgetting, that this was
right.
not. There are dedicated and wonderful teachers. I know teachers melt down when you start talking like this because they are an oppressed group that gets no respect for what they try to do for children. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
And they have stress in their jobs too.
Massive stress. They're not paid enough.
The resources aren't there.
And the system was not geared to raise exceptional human beings. Actually, it was to keep these kids at bay so the parents can go work in the factory.
I mean, there's definitely that aspect. It's really heartbreaking for me actually to watch it. I'm surprised at, when I speak with educators, teachers, or administrators, at how they seem to not be paying attention to the data about education that comes out, and why should I, I'm just a mom, why should I know more? Oh, it looks like
it's a blank screen.
On my computer, it's working still.
Yes.
Maybe Kevin, you want to refresh? It might work.
Why aren't we moving on the screen?
On your screen, it's still, but on my screen, it's still moving. So.
But that's playing.
It's just
it's
a short
replaying.
delay. It's just a short delay. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Live.
Yeah, but I think what happens on this screen is what matters, right?
Are you guys being able to? I think it's still working.
Is it better?
I think Kevin needs to refresh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's showing
Samsarah still video.
still photo. Well, let's try something. We're just gonna restart the camera for a second. No. Okay.
Can you hear David?
So now the camera should be coming back on, but it might be not. So I don't know, Samsarah. I don't want to stop the broadcast because we don't want it to be broken into two different videos.
Can we hear?
Yeah. You can.
Can everybody hear?
Kevin says can hear A-okay. So we can wrap up the conversation. I mean,
it sounds like a good time to wrap up.
There was a thread that you and I discussed also about this dehumanization, capitalism, sort of making humans into commodities. How much can we consume and process in our lifetimes that benefits these businesses, and the money behind politics. I mean, it really, that conversation opened up after Occupy. I think before that, you couldn't really talk about capitalism without, being
I think the conversation opened up for a wider audience of people. That's true. There's certain people you could always talk about that too, but I think it became more of a common dialogue for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely involved more in like our politics now, and Bernie Sanders and crew talking more about those things.
Mhm.
Elizabeth Warren definitely has been speaking very powerfully about it. Green Party's always spoken about it.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, Green Party.
Yeah, that's another area of our intersectionality too. Is the Green
Exactly.
Party.
So I think we should say goodbye, and I want to thank folks out there for being with us on another grand experiment. I think we're going to try to do another one because they're fun, and I think we almost know how it works except for what happened here at the end camera part. I don't want people just looking at a blank screen.
Yeah.
But I just want to remind folks to please feel free to go to createspace.com and input my name, Samsarah Morgan, or input the name of the book, Children's Village, Tales of an Urban Nana, and know that 20% of the cost of the book will be given to support the work of Oakland Better Birth Foundation. You can visit us at www.oaklandbetterbirthfoundation.com to know what we're doing here in Oakland, and to be able to come and volunteer with us if you'd like. And I really want to thank Wendy for her love and her patience, and thank Kevin for being one of our village papas and editor of my beautiful first book.
Thank your illustrator.
And I want to thank my illustrator, my wonderful friend Sol Luciani. And I want to thank my granddaughter Jasmine, whose artwork, if you get the book and you look through and you see these sketch drawings, are all done by my beautiful grandchild Jasmine Silver. I want to thank Robert Silver, my son, who did the first layout of the book, and my beautiful son David Silver for all the technical advice and support, even right now to this very day. And I want to thank my son Joseph Farkash, because the book, in the ebook version of the book, was released on his birthday last year, July 22nd. So that's very dear to my heart as well. I want to encourage everybody to fight the good fight, and to not give up, and to love each other. Sounds kind of simple, but it is actually really very complicated, because that request to love each other means that you've got to take a deep breath and look with compassion on people who are acting a little crazy. But at the end of the day, I think that's at the end of the day, love is going to save us. You know?
Thank you, Samsarah. Thank you for sharing your story and your inspiration.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Kev.
Okay.
Bye. Bye, Dave.
Okay, signing out.
Bye-bye.